Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you very much for joining. We'd like to seek the blessings of Radha Madhav, Radha Shyamsundar, Krishna Balaram, Bal Gopal, Gauri, Srila Prabhupada, and Guru Maharaj, and the assembled devotees, so that we can continue with the summary of the Bhagavad Gita. We're on chapter number 13, and a brief summary of this chapter is as follows. So the final 6 chapters, so we're now in the final 6 chapters. We've done up to 12 chapters. First 6 chapters were Karma Yoga. Second 6 chapters is regarded to be Bhakti Yoga. And the final 6 chapters, which is we starting today, the first of the final, is focused on Gyan Yoga, which is transcendental wisdom, which helps one become detached from materialistic aspirations. And also it allows us to become attached to Krishna. So chapter 13, the name of it alone is quite difficult. And the chapter is a challenging one. Nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness. It covers topics previously discussed, but explores them in a more analytical way. Thus, the wise readers can take advantage of the logical presentation made by Krishna to strengthen their conviction and deepen their understanding. So, what are the themes? Arjuna asked Krishna to define 6 subject matters. Prakriti, which is material nature. Purush, which is Krishna. Kshetra, which is the field of activity, the body. Kshetra Gyan, the knower of the field, that's the soul. Gyanam, knowledge, process of knowledge, knowing. Gyayam, which is the object of the knowledge. What's the purpose of the knowledge? So these are the 6 different subject matters he asks questions on. And Krishna describes what is knowledge. And the last theme of this chapter is Krishna describes the nature of the soul. So, the Kshetra Gyan. Yes. And there's a final part as well. Krishna describes material nature and the soul's interaction with this. So let's make a start. So Riyaj, please, you can start off.
Text 1 to 2. Arjuna said, "Oh my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge, and the object of knowledge, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This body, O son of Kunti, is called a field, and one who knows this body is called a knower of the field." Text 3. O son of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and I am and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. Text 4. Now please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, how its changes are, whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are. Text 5. The knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is a special presented in Vedanta, etc., with all reasoning as the cause, the effect.
Okay, thank you. Oh no, keep going. This text 6 and 7 as well.
Text 7. The 5 great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifest, the 10 senses and the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, and adjure, the life symptoms and convictions, and all these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions.
Okay, thank you very much. So it's very, Thank you, Priyansh. Very technical answer to questions that Arjuna is asking. He wanted to know about 6 different subjects, and Krishna started to give him an answer. So let's do a summary. Arjuna, although an established transcendentalist, he plays the role of a materially entangled individual. So he can pose questions for the benefit of humanity. So actually it's for our benefit that he's asking these questions. And Arjuna asks him to define these 6 subject matter. Prakriti. What is Prakriti? So Prakriti is basically this material world, which is part of Krishna, but it's also separate from Krishna. It's Krishna's energy, Devi Esha, Guna Mayi. So he says, this is my divine material energy. So Prakriti is nature. Purush is the enjoyer. And who is the enjoyer? That's the Supreme Lord. He's the only enjoyer. We are the enjoyed. But when the enjoyed serves the enjoyer, the enjoyed also gains unlimited happiness, also becomes like the enjoyer because it's properly situated. It's serving the enjoyer. Kshetra is the field of activities. And Krishna describes in text number 6 and 7, the field of activities, which is the ego, elements and intelligence, and manifest of senses and mind. Basically, everything is a field where our activities take place. Kshetra Gyan is the knower of the field. He talks about that later on. Gyanam, knowledge and process of knowing. He also talks about that in some detail. Gyayam, the object of knowledge. So, this is the 6 questions, just to, because it's quite a tough chapter, it's good to see it in different ways. So, these are the 6 subject matters and what they are related to, basically. How, where the answers are in relation to these 6 questions in this chapter. Exactly where are the answers? Okay. These subjects are key constituents of Vedic philosophy. And Krishna, therefore, spends the entire chapter defining and discussing. So he gives answer to each and every one of these 6 subject matters that Arjuna is inquiring about. His astute inquiries, Arjuna's astute inquiries, create the opportunity for Krishna to offer answers to life's most profound mysteries. And Krishna begins by defining Kshetra, the field of activities, right? That's this world, basically, the gross elements, the mind, intelligence, etc. And he also talks about the Kshetra Gyan, the soul. So, lesson to learn from this section of the Gita, first 7 verses. We can learn about the various constitutions of our body so that we can understand how to control our desires and focus our attention on the Lord. So this is really interesting. These are the different constitutions. Right? There's the 5 gross elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, which is what our body is constituted of. And then there's the 5 objects of senses, the form, the sound, the smell, the taste, and the touch. And then there's the knowledge acquiring and working senses. So what are they? Eyes, so that we can see. There's the ear, so that we can hear. Nose, we can smell. Tongue, we can taste. And skin, we can touch. So they're all linked. Working senses are hands, legs, voice, anus, and genitals. And then we have the mind, which is also regarded to be the chief of the senses, in fact. So here we are discussing the components of the field of activities. So far we've got 5 plus 5 plus 10 plus 1. Oh, sorry, Madhu, could you stop writing, please, on the screen, please? Thank you. Just 1 second. See if I can. Okay. So, we are 5, 10, 20, 21. And then we've got intelligence, mind intelligence, ego. So that takes us to 23. And then we have the unmanifested, avyaktam, that which is not yet manifested. So material nature in its subtle stage is called Pradhan. This is quite complex. It is the undifferentiated sum total of all material elements. Although they are undifferentiated, one can understand that the total material elements are contained therein. When the total material elements are manifested by the interaction of the three modes of material nature, the manifestation is called Prakriti. It is the condition of material nature immediately previous to its manifestation is the Pradhan. Basically, Pradhan is unmanifested, and then when it becomes manifested, this is what comes. This is what comes. So, and what are these transformations of the field of activity? Birth, then we grow a little bit, we stay, we produce offspring, we dwindle, and then there's death. These are 6 stages that we go through, every life goes through. So, and the interactions of this field of activities, basically it's desire and hate, happiness and distress. This is what happens from the interactions. So let's read this one. Maybe Prabhupada, I think it's just this one page, Prabhupada. Would you like to read that? Prabhupada, would you like to read that? You're muted, huh? You're muted.
Yeah, before I put my hand up, but I didn't see. What is anus and genitals?
What is?
Anus and genitals.
Where's that?
Working sense.
Working senses. Anus is the backside, and genitals, backside, the backside, when we let everything out from our system.
All right. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right. Hare Krishna to everybody. Prabhuji and all devotees. Chapter 13, Nature, the Enjoyer and the Conciseness. Text 8 to 12. Humility, pridelessness, novelliance, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanness, steadiness, self-control, reunion of the object, sense, great fiction, absence of the flesh ego, the percentage of the evil of the birth, death, old age and disease, detachment, freedom from the entanglement with the children, wife, home, and the rest, even mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to the live in the solitary place, detachment from the general mass of the people, accepting the importance of the self-realization, and the philosophical search for the absolute truth. All those I declare to be knowledge, and beside this, I can't see the other ones.
Yeah, he says, beside this, whatever there may be is ignorance. So basically, Krishna is saying this is Gyan. When Arjuna is asking him, what is Gyan? This is Gyan. So in these 5 texts, Krishna gives him the answer. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, like that. So these verses describe how the Kshetra Gyan, the soul, can disentangle himself from the Kshetra, the body, by cultivating Gyan. So when we cultivate these qualities of simplicity, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, then the soul can basically become separated or detached from the body. Since true knowledge is revealed within the heart of a deserving person, the real method of acquiring knowledge is the cultivation of divine qualities, of which humility is the first. So if we look, these are wonderful qualities to have. And guess what is the first one? Humility. Why? Because God himself is humble and he likes those who are humble. So this is very important to understand. God is not an egoistic maniac. He is very humble. So when he sees others are humble, he likes that. Right? Knowledge, sorry? Knowledge is not about information and memorization, but rather about exemplary personal character and practical behavior. One who nurtures a saintly disposition experiences a change of heart, which disentangles the eternal soul from its deep-rooted identification with the body. Because the body is only temporary. It's an outside covering, outer covering. The inside, the soul, is eternal. The body is temporary. So we have to try to cultivate these qualities which will help the soul connect with the Supreme Soul. So what is the lesson? Cultivate the quality of humility. So how do we become humble? So humility is often mistaken to simply be some sort of meekness in behavior. Oh, I am no good. I am useless. That's not really humility. That's just feeling sorry for ourselves. Vaishnava humility is, however, a completely spiritual quality, not a material one. It comes from the understanding one's real self. It comes from understanding one's real self in relation to God. Real humility is the understanding that one is but an instrument or ordered servant of the Supreme. So if we understand that I am simply acting on behalf of the Supreme, I am simply a servant, an instrument, that is humility. That is our real position. I do not have any good qualities whatsoever. On my own strength, I cannot accomplish anything independently. I am of no special significance in the vastness of creation. My only qualification is the order of my spiritual master and Krishna. By their potency, I may be empowered to do anything as they wish. So this is humility. This is real humility. Srila Prabhupada defines humility as not hankering for the satisfaction of being honored by others. Thus, a Vaishnava does not endeavor to prove his or her worth to others or to themselves. They simply endeavor to serve and please Krishna. This is a really nice place to be. We don't have to prove anything to anyone, including ourselves. If we simply behave like we want to serve the Supreme Lord, want to do whatever he wants us to do and become an instrument, then that is the highest position. That is the best position. In the mood of real humility, one can act very boldly and confidently. On one's personal behalf, a Vaishnava is very meek and tolerant. But when Krishna's service demands, a humble Vaishnava will do the needful in a complete mood of service. In mundane humility, the focus is on one's own inadequacies rather than upon Krishna's mercy. I am in the center, not Krishna. That is crucial distinction. So there's example is Hanuman. Hanuman was extremely powerful, and he understood that power came from Ram. And whenever the service of Ram was due to be done, Hanuman would step up and do that service. But that means he was very humble, even though he may be very aggressive in his service, because that was the nature of his seva to Ram. He had to find Sita and serve Ram in that capacity of protecting Sita. So he had to do some things which are not meek or tolerant. But because he was acting on behalf of the Supreme Lord Ramachandra, he was completely humble. He was using all of his strength in the service of Krishna. This is very powerful to hear. And Prabhupada also, he simply would give everything, all the credit to his spiritual master. Because of my spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, I was able to serve in some small way. Very humble, but very powerful souls. So let's go to the next section. Text number 13. Sitaram Prabhu, would you like to do?
Hare Krishna to everyone. Text 13:1. I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal Brahman, the spirit beginning blessed and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. 14. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces. He has ears everywhere. In this way, the Supersoul exists, pervading everything. 15. The Supersoul is the original source of all senses, yet he is with the senses. He is unattached. Also, he is the maintainer of the living being. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all the modes of material nature. 16. The Supreme Truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and non-moving, because he is subtle. He is beyond the perception, of the material.
Beyond the power.
The power of the material senses to see or to know. Also far away, he is also near to all.
Brilliant. Keep going.
17. Also the Supersoul appears to be divided among all beings. He is never divided. He is situated as one. Also he is a maintainer of every living entity. It is to be understood that he devours and develops maybe everything. Text 18. He is a source of light in all luminous object. He is beyond darkness of matter and unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is object of knowledge, and he is a goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. Text 19. Thus, the field of activity, the body, knowledge, and the knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand that thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. Hare Krishna.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So, having described the Kshetra, the body, Kshetra Gyan, the soul, and Gyanam, knowledge, Krishna now describes Gyanam, which is the object of knowledge. The purpose of knowledge is to realize the soul and the supersoul. That's the whole idea of gaining this knowledge, to understand who we are. If we don't even know who we are, how are we going to advance in our life? And we're not the body, because the body keeps changing. We don't have the same body that we were born with, but we are the same person. So let's understand, who are we and who is the super soul? So the purpose of knowledge is to realize the soul and the super soul, who are eternally individual, but at the same time, intimately connected. So although we are separate from the Supreme Lord, we are also very intimately connected. We're part and parcel of God. It is prerogative of the soul to understand the super soul. But the super soul is sometimes described as avigyanan, or unknowable. So how do we understand that? How do we reconcile it? So the scientists, they try to fathom the Supreme using mundane logic. Oh, I can't see God, so he doesn't exist. This is effectively their answer. I cannot experiment on God, so he does not exist. But actually, the material, they use mundane logic and material sense perception, which are effectively, it'll baffle them, because God cannot be seen in that with those material eyes. And the super soul within remains unknowable to them. However, those who approach the subject matter with proper attitude, ready and willing to gain insight through the eyes of great teachers, can surely realize the super soul, the object of all knowledge. So he's knowable, but he's also unknowable. He's unknowable to those who don't have perhaps the right attitude to understand God. But those who approach him with the proper attitude, they will understand God slowly, 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 through the eyes of great teachers. So what is the lesson? Understanding the difference between the soul and the super soul. Very important. What is the difference? So the soul are us, the living entities. We are very, very small. Very, very small. 1/10,000th tip, size of the tip of the hair. We're cognizant of one's own body. We know our own body. Nobody else's. And the soul is a secondary proprietor for one's body. We're like a citizen of a proprietor of one's land. So we're in this body, but we don't own it. We are the possessor of it, but we don't own it. We have children, but we don't own them. We have properties and cars and luxury, but we don't own them. Why? Because when we leave this body, everything is left behind. So we can't own it. Owner means you keep it forever, but we can't, because we will leave this body and everything stays back here. Soul is a secondary controller of the senses. So what does that mean? Basically, we have desire, and those desires are fulfilled by the Supreme Lord through material nature. So material nature is the first controller of the senses, and we, the soul, is a secondary. We are fallible. We are also loving servants of the Lord. We're subordinate to the Lord. And there are innumerable living entities. So how does that compare with the super soul? The super soul is regarded to be God. He's maintained. He's known as Paramatma. He's infinite. There's no limit to him. Vibhu. He knows everyone and everything. Omniscient. The super soul is a supreme proprietor of everybody. He controls everything. He never dies. He's eternal. He's also the supreme controller of the senses. His other name is Rishikesh, controller of the senses. He's infallible, cannot be defeated. He's eternally a loving master, so he's superior to us. And though the super soul is in the heart of every living entity and within every atom, still there's only one super soul. He's not divine. So this is very important to know, the differences between us and God. Okay. Maybe Shyamalini, would you like to read?
Yes, Prabhu. Sorry, I couldn't.
No problem.
Yeah. Text 20, material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. Text 21. Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various suffering and enjoyments in this world. Text 22. The living being, a living entity in material nature, thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the free modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various species. Text 23, yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the super soul. Text 24, one who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. Text 25, some perceive the super soul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires. Text 26, again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. Text 27, O chief of the Bharata, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. Text 28, one who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees. One who sees the super soul equally present everywhere in every living being does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus, he approaches the transcendental destination.
Yep, keep going.
Text 30, one who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. Text 31, when a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attained to the Brahman conceptions. Text 32, those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. Text 33, the sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all-pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. Text 34, O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all the universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness.
And the final bit here.
Yes, text 35. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attains to the supreme goal. End of chapter 30.
Very good. Very good. Kshetra Gyan Vibhag Yoga. That's the name of the chapter. So, a lot of verses there, 23 verses. The chapter concludes with a description of the final two terms, Bhakti and Purush. Very important to understand this. The conditioned soul desires to control and enjoy matter, Bhakti. We are trying to live in this world to control this, our environment, control everything that's happening around us, control this Prakriti, matter. And it's this enjoying spirit that binds us to this world. So because we become attached to everything around us, and everything is material because we haven't got the spiritual eyes to see beyond material. The super soul, however, is the actual enjoyer. And everything, material nature and the individual soul, is ultimately meant for his enjoyment. So he's the Purush, means enjoyer. So how do we satisfy the Supreme Soul? Just as pouring water onto the root of a tree energizes the trunk, the branches, and the twigs, similarly, offering worship and service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his pleasure and satisfaction automatically brings satisfaction to all living entities, including ourselves. So this is the point. How do we satisfy the Supreme Lord? Simply serving him. It gives us, he becomes pleased, but not just him. Everything becomes happy. Everything becomes pleased. We don't have any separate obligations if we simply serve the Supreme Lord. So if you just water the root of the plant, the branches are happy, the trunks are happy, the twigs are happy, the leaves are happy. In the same way, if we worship the Supreme Personality of God, then automatically our lives become very successful. So, lesson 55, by practicing bhakti, we try to elevate our consciousness. This is the point. Our consciousness, especially at the time of death, is very, very important. Because if our consciousness is God conscious, we'll go to God. If our consciousness is meat-eating consciousness, i.e., we want to eat raw meat, our destination is in the animal kingdom, maybe a tiger. If our consciousness is to eat everything and anything, whether it's tasty or not tasty, whether it's fresh or not fresh, consciousness is that of a pig. That may be our next life. If our consciousness is we just want to sleep all day long, mode of ignorance, we don't want to do anything, we just want to chill out. Our consciousness may be that of a bear, and our next life might be that of a bear. Because that's our consciousness. That's where we're going to head. The material nature will fulfill our desires. And our desires, if they are animalistic desires, and we'll end up in the animal world. It's a very simple formula. If our consciousness is connected to God, then we will go back to the Supreme Lord. So this is very important to get this consciousness right. So this is a very instructive chapter because so much gyan in this chapter, so much knowledge. So any questions, any comments? It's a tough chapter, but it is a very, very good chapter to understand. A lot of instructions in this chapter. How to live in this world and not be entangled in this world through knowledge, Gyan. Okay, we can stop there. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, chapter 13. Tomorrow we'll do chapter 14.